Okay, we're going to get started. Good. Hello, my name is Kalina, and I'm the president of the Holocaust, Genocide, and Human Rights Project at Monroe Community College in Rochester, New York. I would like to welcome all the students from across the United States and abroad. I have the pleasure of introducing Linda Sue Park and Salva. Linda Sue is an award-winning author. She has written many books for young readers, including the 2002 Newbery Medal winner, A Single Shard, and the New York Times bestseller, A Long Walk to Water. This book's incredible story is why we are gathered here today. Linda Sue is also the founder and curator of Alita Books, an imprint of HarperCollins. She also serves on the advisory boards of We Need Diverse Books and the Rabbit Hole Museum Project. In addition to serving in these roles, she also created the Key Booka website to highlight children's books created by the Korean diaspora. As for Salva, he was born in a rural village in southwestern Sudan. At 11 years old, the Sudanese civil war reached his village and separated him from his family. He joined thousands of boys famously known as the Lost Boys, seeking refuge in camps in Kenya and Ethiopia. After living in refugee camps for 10 years, he was given the opportunity to move to the United States, where a family from Rochester welcomed him. Several years passed, and Salva realized his father was still alive in southern Sudan, but was suffering from disease due to waterborne parasites. His father's sickness inspired him to help both his father and country by bringing clean water to those in need. This was the start of Water for South Sudan. Salva's story is told in the book, A Long Walk to Water, written by Linda Sue Park. Salva, please help me in welcoming Linda Sue Park and Salva, everyone.
Am I good here? Can you all hear me? Great, okay. We're going to start today with me asking Salva a few questions. I hope it's going to be just kind of a conversation that you all get to eavesdrop on. So thank you to Rochester International Academy for being here today, and to all of you out in live stream land. We're thrilled to have you. Want to wave at them, Kelly?
Welcome, guys.
So, okay. Salva, as Kalina just explained, it was your father who inspired you with this idea to bring clean water to the villages where you grew up. But then, I asked myself, okay, let's bring water to people. How do you do that? How does anybody even start? So can you tell us a little bit about what were your first steps? How did you get? It was then Water for Sudan, it's now called Water for South Sudan. How did you get that started?
Yes, as it's been mentioned, it's true. It's because of my dad. That's how it started. And when I went there, and now find out there's so much need because people don't even have water. And when they get the water, that water is not clean enough. It has a lot of parasite in it. And that's why I said I should do something to provide the clean drinking water to the people of South Sudan. And when I went, I started in our village, and I didn't know this thing will keep going on and on and on. And when we put the well there, a lot of things changed. Stability came in, and people don't have to move again like nomadic to go and search for water and other things as well. They have to stay in their own village. And they have to establish themselves, building school and other things as well, and have a good life. This is how the whole thing is done, because of my dad.
So I think your original intent was to put one well in one village where your dad lived. And how many are we up to now?
AJ, Lynn, how many?
571 wells.
And these 570 wells, we will not take a credit and say we did it alone. It's because about the generous people all over the world supported us to make it happen. That's why we unable to have those wells. And I thank everyone that who participated in it. Thank you.
So actually, that's the second question on my page, was how far you've come from 1 to 571. I don't think that, I don't know when you were a little boy what you dreamed of. Maybe you just dreamed of growing up in your village and having the most cows. Isn't that, something,
Yeah.
And so now your dreams must be very different. So.
Absolutely, Linda Sue. In our culture where I grew up, is you are just a young man hoping that you will have enough cows, one day you will have enough goats, and you get married and settle down next to your neighbors. That was the dream, and no other dream that behind than cows and goats and all this kind of thing. And I was lucky my dad took me to school at that time too when I was young, and their dream at that time is like, would you be able to speak the language that they are teaching you? That's number one. You just want to be able to speak either Arabic or English or whatever you are learning there. That's number one dream that is good before you think about other things.
What interests me about that is that sometimes a dream is something way out there, and sometimes it's just the next day. Yeah. There are many, many students who are listening to us right now who had that exact same thing. Will I learn the language of this place that I have come to? Because before you know it, before you know the language, it's like, the world is impenetrable, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And how do you picture, just if you do, maybe you don't, maybe you just take it one day and one well at a time. But if you look out in 10 years or 20 years, a generation, your children grown, what do you see for Water for South Sudan or for South Sudan?
The plan for Water for South Sudan is to make sure that there's an organization that will stay in that community for as much as we could to be able to afford it. And we like to train other young generation that are coming in to take it over. Because so far it's doing a great job. And now we have we have a school that's been built, and these children later on, they are becoming educated, and there's children already want to work on the water too. We become an example to them. And we like to see Water for South Sudan stay there as much as the country is needed.
I really love the philosophy of many indigenous and Native American nations on this continent who say that you make your decisions thinking 7 generations down the line. How will this affect 7 generations from now? It's a question that a lot of us have not asked ourselves often enough. And I feel like that's what you're doing here. Absolutely. For South Sudan. Can you tell us a little bit? I saw Salva for the first time since 2019, a couple of days ago. It was a very joyful reunion, as so many of us have not been able to see our people for so long. Can you talk a little bit about what the pandemic was like in South Sudan? I mean, we're all familiar with what it was like here. What was it like for you in South Sudan, the operation, Water for South Sudan, the villagers? What was that like during the pandemic years?
Pandemic year was a hard time to all of us. We all know other country that was exempt from that. And in South Sudan was totally unique because we don't have facilities that if such a thing, disease came in, we would be able to protect ourselves. It was not like this. And water was the essential thing that everyone needed. And that was the first treatment for COVID-19 when it hit. Because people need to drink enough water, they need to wash their hands, they need to make sure things are clean. And was challenge. We tried to shut ourselves down for maybe 1 month at that time then. And then we have to come back immediately because there's tremendous need there for water and people need water. And government said that, well, you guys are good organization helping and you are exempted, you don't need to be quarantined, you don't need to close down everything. And we were bounced back to do whatever we could. Even we closed down for 1 month, and was challenged. And imagine, you have a country like in U.S., and you have only one laboratory in Washington, D.C. Imagine that. And the only lab we have for COVID-19 was in Juba. And many people that get sick in other states, who knows what happened there? They die and no one knows they get COVID-19 or not. I myself alone, I got it twice. I got COVID-19 twice. And I didn't even know I was having it until I was traveling, and then they find out that I was having COVID. If I didn't travel, I would have just spread the disease all over the places without knowing it. And at that time, we lost a lot of people, and the number is not being counted yet, and was a big, big, big challenge. But so far, we have generous people that supported us, and the money was still coming into Water for South Sudan, and we were still doing the work that people need to do to provide clean drinking water. And it was hard, to your question. But no good tracking record to tell what.
Right.
Yeah.
But that really is interesting. How do you keep clean without water, right?
Yeah.
So I know that hygiene programs were part of Water for South Sudan's mission even before the pandemic, but I think that they've been further developed, right?
Yes. When the pandemic hit, UNICEF came to us and said, guys, here's the situation. You have this and we have this, and we can help each other. And we, I don't know how many villages, AJ, last time we provide all this bucket, soap, and teach them awareness, how to protect yourself, stay distant, because over there you have hundreds of people lining up for using the same well. And there is only one handle that they have to handle, because that's the only source of water that they need to collect the water. And if you don't have a good system that you teach them with awareness, say, hey guys, have a distance, and when you touch that handle to pump the water out, you need to keep your hand clean. Immediately there's 100 of people or 500 in that village, they will get disease within a day. And with that, we came in and we did the best we could to make sure we teach them well what to do, and it minimized the spread of the disease.
It is a fantastic concept that the things that make us sick are things we can't see, right? I mean, that must still seem like, sort of magic or some kind of witchcraft to people all over the world, right? No, don't do that. That'll make you sick. There's nothing there. What do you mean? That's a really mind-boggling concept, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not like a lion. You see lion coming to you,
right?
And then you run.
So, what would you say that, you know your own story, so A Long Walk to Water was not anything you didn't know about, but how has the book changed your life, both for Water for South Sudan and personally?
Well, I give a credit to you too, Linda Sue Park, because you were the one. If you didn't do that, we wouldn't be having that great impact, and we wouldn't be talking here today in this podium. And that book helped Water for South Sudan a lot. And I would say, Linda, that 30%? Yeah, 30%. Income come to Water for South Sudan because of the book. People read it there, and also too, it helped all of us. Those who are reading it, they can see something that, yes, all of us, we can do it, and they can contribute, and they go and do the other work. Like this student, we have them here today as an international student. They are following exactly my step that I was going through. Came here, speaking English was a challenge. Just understanding the culture alone was a big thing. And you guys are young. I was growing up when I came. I was 20 years old, 21 years old. And you guys have a great opportunity because you are young and your mind is still sharp and you can fit in soon. After 5 years, some of you would not be seen like they were foreigners completely, would be just fitting in fine and be a pro in everything that you can do here in this culture. And these are the things that Water for South Sudan, that book helped. And maybe one day you would be able to read this book and would help you too to see a different thing if you haven't read it yet. And yes, book helped us a lot. And it helped me myself too to be able to meet with so many people. Because I traveled because of the book and meet other people that I haven't met. I went to Asia because of a long walk to water, and I met people I didn't meet. And I always talk with people that I couldn't meet them before in my life. And thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Salva told me a very funny story on Sunday, which was that at he has a family, he has children, and the children are in school in Kampala in Uganda. And a long walk to water was in their school library or in their classrooms. And Salva's daughter said, "This is my daddy." And nobody in the school believed her. he had to go in and talk to them about it to say, yeah, that is me. So, and then of course they were like, "Well, will you come speak to us? Will you come?" So he made more work for himself, but
should have kept quiet.
So, okay, I think we're going to move now to some questions for me, which our student moderator is going to help us with. And Salva, please feel free to chip in at any point when they ask me questions.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Leah. I am one of the vice presidents of the Holocaust, Genocide, and Human Rights Project. So we just have a couple questions for Linda Sue, and then after that we're going to move on to a Q&A portion with questions that people have sent in. So first we have for Linda Sue. Would you share how you became connected to Salva and how A Long Walk to Water came to be?
Sure. My husband is a journalist, and he was what's called a general assignment reporter. That means he did stories about everything here in the Rochester area. And one day he came home from work and he said, "I interviewed somebody really interesting today, and I think you should meet him." So it took a few months, but eventually I did meet this person, and my husband was right. He was very interesting. He had this amazing story. I was so incredibly impressed by his story that I started telling everybody I knew about him. You know, my friends, I met this guy, I got to tell you about him. And then I ran out of people I knew. So I started telling people I didn't know. I would be like in line at the CVS, and I would turn around and I would say, "I know you don't know me, but I just met this guy whose story blows my mind, and I have to tell you about it." Okay, now I don't usually do that. I do not talk to strangers in the CVS, but this is how impressed I was with this story. I first met Salva in 2003. It took me a while because sometimes adult brains are very slow on the uptake, as I'm sure you all know. But in 2007, I was finally like, duh. If I wrote a book about Salva, I could tell a whole bunch of people at once, and I could stop bothering people in the CVS. So it was really my husband who did the initial reporting. He had several newspaper stories. You can Google Salva Dut and Ben Dobbin, that is his name, and his newspaper articles will come up, so that was the start of it. Also, a question I get asked a lot is, have I ever been to South Sudan? I have not. I was going to go, and then the pandemic came, so we have to try to get that on the schedule again, okay? So, yeah. But my husband has been twice. So he went with hundreds of questions that I had written out for him. He interviewed people, he recorded them. There was a videographer on the first trip who took video. So I looked at my husband's notes, I asked him questions and so forth. And so he was basically my researcher. Another source was that when Salva was a student, he had an assignment to write his memoirs, right? So he did a tremendous job. I don't know how many pages it was. It was quite long, wasn't it, Salva? Yeah.
About 9 chapters.
Yes, 9 chapters. So that was another source. I began there. And then, of course, I interviewed Salva for many, many, many hours. His memoir would say something like, the war came while I was in school, so we had to run away. So it would say something like that. And that became the first chapter. I expanded that, interviewing him. What were you doing? What was the schoolroom like? And so forth, until that became chapter 1 of the book. So, At one point during this process, Salva was still living here in the US, because now he lives in South Sudan and in Uganda. But I called him up and I said, Salva, would you like to come to dinner? We'd love to have you come over to dinner. And there was this silence. And I thought, oh my goodness, is he like upset with me about something? And he'd said, Linda Sue, I would like very much to come to dinner, but during dinner, please, no more questions. I had interviewed him to death. He was so tired of answering my questions, but I wanted to get this book right. I wanted to do a really good job in it. So, so that was part of the process of writing the story and how it came to be. But I mean, what I thought would happen, I wrote Salva's story having in my head the one person can make a difference thing, you know, and he really has. And that is actually not how readers responded. What readers responded with was, how can we help? And that stunned me. And I had forgotten how young people are just our main source of hope in our culture, right? Grown-ups get jaded, we get tired, we get to feeling like there's nothing we can do to change this world that has so many problems. But young people are like, all right, let's go, let's do this. And that is what the young readers of A Long Walk to Water did. They went to their adults, they went to their teachers and the other adults in their lives, and they said, what can we do to help? So you just heard Lynn Maluli, whom you'll meet shortly here, she's executive director of Water for South Sudan, that 30% of Water for South Sudan's budget comes from readers of A Long Walk to Water, young people. Okay, so 571 wells, I'm rounding up to 600 because I'm terrible at math, but that 30%, 200 wells, okay? More than 200 wells have been funded by young people, sometimes by kids as young as third grade, you know, saving pennies. There are villages that have water in South Sudan now because of young people. There are literally people, especially babies, who are not going to die, who are going to make it through their babyhood and grow up because of people who've read the book, young people who've read the book, and who have decided to help. Okay? I mean, when you save people's lives, that makes you a superhero. Right? And that's how I think of the young readers of A Long Walk to Water who have decided to help. They're all superheroes. Now, not as big a superhero as this guy,
Oh, no.
but,
She's the
but
one.
still superheroes. So.
All right, so how has Salva, A Long Walk to Water, and Water for South Sudan impacted your life?
So on a personal level, we all have days where we feel terrible, like I don't even want to get out of bed, okay? I'm having such a terrible day. My life is just awful, right? Now, those of you who know the book, A Long Walk to Water, it has a very distinctive black and orange cover. Okay, it's an orange sunset and black. And so it's eye-catching. And I have copies of the book lying in random places around my house because I want it to catch my eye. On those days, I think I'm having a bad day. And I see the book and I think, Salva had some pretty bad days in that book. Boy, they were bad days. My bad days are nothing like Salva's bad days. And I'm like, okay, snap out of it, okay? You're having not so good a day. But that is nothing compared to what many people all over the world like Salva have to go through. Get yourself together, okay? Do something tiny. Do something tiny for somebody else, okay? I mean, Salva did this huge thing for hundreds of thousands of people. I'd do something small for somebody else to get me out of that funk. There's absolutely no question that that has been a huge personal change to my life from knowing Salva and from writing this book. It's just, you know, stop feeling sorry for yourself. It is so unattractive, okay? Right? I mean, you all know what I'm talking about. People who are always whining and always moaning. It's just like, get away from me, right? Get that bad mojo away from me, right? Do something small for somebody else, and that's how you lift everything, including yourself. So that Salva's story and the privilege I had of writing that book has done that for me.
Thank you.
All right, so how has this experience impacted your writing?
Oh, Okay, so I've been fortunate enough to publish almost 30 books for young readers. And the good and bad thing is that every book I write, I learn how to write that book. When I go on to the next one, it's completely different. And I'm always like, I don't know how to do this. How did I ever write a book in the first place? Writing is not easy. Even people who are writers, famous people you know who are really big writers, writing is a huge challenge, right? But that's also what makes it interesting. If it was really, really easy, you would just get bored. Like a super easy video game, how many times you play it? Now this is boring, right? You need a challenge to keep you interested. So writing is certainly that for me. I suppose it hasn't impacted when I actually sit down to do my writing. It hasn't impacted it that much. But of course, because it's by far my best-selling book, it has affected my career, right? So when I go, people don't say to me, oh, you wrote a single shard which won the Newbery. Only librarians say that, okay? What people say, oh, you wrote A Long Walk to Water. Do you know Salva? That's what they ask me. So.
All right, so what is your message to readers of your books and to young writers?
I guess as far as writing goes, I'm often asked to talk to young people about writing. And you should all know that almost all the great writers I know, when we first write something, you know, you write a paragraph, you write the beginning of a story, it is terrible. No, I mean, it is terrible, okay? And so what separates like writers from people who think they can't write or don't write is just that we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again, and we try to get a little bit better each time. Again, I'm a video game fan, so I think of it as like leveling up. I'm going to level up this paragraph. I'm going to just make it a little bit better this time. I'm going to get a little bit farther each time. So it's not like some magical thing, you know. It's work, it's hard, we do it again and again and again. We try to get a little bit better every time. So that's what writing is like for me and for most of the good writers I know. It's like anything else, and it's also in the book. Like Salva thinks to himself one step at a time, one day at a time, right? And that is how I approach writing, with tiny little tasks. Today I'm going to write 2 paragraphs. Today I'm going to write 2 terrible paragraphs. That's what I assign myself. And my brain goes, we can do that. We can write 2 terrible paragraphs, and they can be terrible because I'm going to rewrite them again and again and again and again until they're better. So each day, a tiny step and permission to write terribly, okay? And then to rewrite and make it better each time. That would be my advice for young writers.
All right, we're going to move on to the Q&A portion. We're going to invite up Lynn and AJ. And we're going to do some questions that have been sent in from all around
They
I
only
think
have one mic.
all around
so
the
if you wanna
country.
move
I don't
down
know if
here.
there's anything
Move.
internationally that we've printed out. But.
I can swig my
Yeah,
water.
take your water. Yeah, I'll take mine. Thank you.
All right, so we're just going to have our new folks up on the podium introduce themselves real quick.
Hi, I'm Lynn Maluli, and I'm Executive Director at Water for South Sudan here in Rochester.
I am Ajang Hagok. I'm a Country Director of Water for South Sudan.
All right, so this little group of questions that I have right here are from Zion Lutheran School, 7th and 8th grade. Our first one is for AJ. They're wondering, how long does it take to build a well?
Thank you. That's a good question. Sometimes it depends where you're drilling the well in. It might take you in about 3 to 4 days, depending on the formation of the ground. It might even take you 7 days, or sometime when you went to a difficult formation to where you have a lot of challenges on the ground, it might take you longer than that. depending where you are drilling the well in. Thank you.
All right, our next one's for Linda Sue. They're wondering, why did you add the detail of the orange scarf to the story? Was it to show hope?
Why did I add the, oh, see this, okay, I wrote the book in 2010. So okay, so yes. The story is, for those of you who have already read it, the story is a pretty bleak one, right? It's a very hard story. It's a story about war. It's a story about being separated from your family. It's a story about a lot of hard things, right? And so I wanted a few bright moments in the book, just so that it wouldn't relentlessly be a downer, right? So at one point, Salva is walking with someone who figures out how to get honey from a beehive, right? So that honey, oh, you remember, if you're walking and starving to death, how good that honey must have tasted, right? So that was one bright spot. So I kept thinking about that, and writers think a lot about the five senses, so that was a taste one, right? And so sight is a big one. So I wanted a bright bit of color in there. And the people of South Sudan, even though they have very little, right, in terms of possessions and things, they still like to get dressed up. They still like to celebrate different things. And the women wear beautiful headscarves. And I wanted to get that detail in somehow.
All right, next one is for Salva. How long did it take to complete your first project?
How long did it take to complete my first
The
project?
first well, is that the, yeah.
First well. Well, it took a long time because what happened by that time, the country was still nothing completely. There was zero road. And I have to go to Uganda and mobilize everything. Talk with the people that contractor that will go and drill the well, find the money where we could wire the money to these people, and now put everything on the truck. The fuel is not like here when you can go to any gas station and get things. And put all the food, all the material in the truck. To get there, it took 1 month to get to the site. And then now, after you go to the site, to the compound where you need to go to the village and meet with the villagers first and see where the site of the well is. At that time, it's a challenge to go to where the village is because villagers have to cut the trees first to clear the road where you can be able to come in with a truck. It takes other day, almost 1 week, if you are talking about 20 miles to go to the village and need to be cleared and all those kind of things, and we don't have a bulldozer to bulldoze the road. It's not like that. And it takes a while. And when you get there to start the actual well drilling, that's exactly what AJ said. It takes 3 days to 1 week. But it depends. If your machine breaks down, and you don't have a garage over there, like one time it happened to us, the drilling rig broke down. And the only place to find the spare part is in Alabama. Imagine that. You need a spare part in Alabama, and now you're drilling and the thing broke down, and you have no ways to handle it. And if you are in such a situation, you have to do whatever you could. Like what we did with that thing happened, we just cut the old tire, and then we fixed the part and then it worked. And that's the time that it takes. It's a very challenge in a very hard condition, extremely warm, and you don't have, if you get sick, you don't have to go to any clinic unless you're carrying your own medicine. If not, you have to take care of yourself. If you are hungry, you don't have to go to McDonald's or something like that. It's not like that. You have to carry everything. You don't have a stove. You have to collect firewood all the time to cook with it. And you need to travel far away to collect the water that you need to cook with it. Yes, it's take a long process for, make it short anyway. The first year we start drilling, instead of completing 20 wells, it took us 5 wells to drill for the first year project, because of those difficulties. Thank you.
My husband was continually amazed at the ingenuity because something breaks, there's nowhere to go to get a replacement. A screwdriver breaks, whatever breaks. Either you have the replacement on the truck. If you don't, you have to jerry-rig it. And he said, they're just so ingenious. AJ and his guys, they figure it out. They use whatever they have. They,
Sure.
yeah.
I could add something to your
Yeah.
husband. When Ben Dubbin went there for the first time, we have to take a small aircraft to another town and then take a car, and we have to drive how many hours? I don't remember, 8 hours, 6 hours, I don't know, to go to the site where people are drilling. And we told this shutter plane to come back after a few days, whatever, and all this at 9 a.m. And what will happen when we are coming to catch the plane in that dirty strip? Our car broke down. And we get nothing. We don't have anything completely. The good news, we were using satellite phone. That was the only one that you could use to communicate. And we called Juba and we said, okay, suspend your flight tomorrow because we broke down. And what happened in that car, what happened was just a tire was flat. That was the problem. And we were excited. We have another spare tire there. Let's just use it. When we go up there and get out there, the spare tire was flat too. And we cannot drive with 3 tires. And now, Ben Dubbin has to walk almost 11 miles, I guess, because we were having another truck that is traveling somewhere. And we have no communication there. The satellite phone only we have it here. And we cannot call them to say, hey guys, come and rescue us. And that thing happened in the morning hours, like around 10 a.m. when we broke down. And Ben, with our driver, they have to walk 11 miles in extreme heat, over 100 degrees, just to go and wait on that road if that car will pass or they miss it. Luckily, they find that the tire tread was not passing, no car passed there, and then they sit and wait there. Luckily, the truck came. And when the truck came, said that, well, I have to deliver this thing first and I will come and rescue you. And the truck has to go. And imagine at 10 a.m. to another almost, I don't know, the next day, to fix the tire. Yeah. Just the tire alone. Anyway, they came after that, they took the tire from our side, and they have to go back to the side where our compound is to fix it, and then bring it back again to us for us to go. Imagine that. Yeah. But if you said, okay, I'm just sitting there, no one will ever rescue you, you will be there forever. And the people in that village, they were so good because they knew that we are providing the clean water to them. And one of the ladies in that morning hours came, and she has to walk around 10 and come back at evening at 5 p.m., something like that. This woman came and passed by and went, and then at evening time when she came collecting the water, we were still stuck there with these white faces there. And she went back to her village and then go and brought us a chicken. And now it's nighttime, and Ben and I, we have to gut the chicken and clean it up.
Now this is a chicken like bok, 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 bok. This is not a nice thing of nuggets or something.
Yes, and we have to gut it and all this, and we put in fire, and everyone kind of, oh, that's a really good meal there. That was the best meal that we have. But when we left the camp at that time, there was leopard that killed about 3 goats or something like that. And now we are sitting in the middle of the bush thinking that, okay, maybe leopards might attack us and all those kind of things, and when we can get out and all this, and here we have chicken. Imagine that life. But you have to be patient enough to be able to go through it. But if you are not patient, you will never get out there, and you will not drill one well. Just a little example. But we have other difficulties that get us through. We went through it in order to be able to provide the clean water to these people. And we cannot let them down. We cannot let them down. And that's what their life need in this world. You go to so many challenges, but if you say that, oh, I cannot make it, you will never get anywhere. And I always put an example. Imagine, guys, just the clothes that we are wearing. Someone worked hard to make it happen. Just the book that she wrote, 30 books, as she said it before. She worked hard, and she has to do a mistake, and she has to redo it again without giving up. And that's why we have this beautiful long walk to water. It's because of perseverance and hard work. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. My husband having to walk 11 hours to get help for the flat tire was like the best thing that ever happened to him. He just loves that story because it had a happy ending. You know, I hate to think of what it
Did
did.
it, and then
Yes.
we catch up the plane, and they came back peacefully.
Yep,
Huh?
yep, yep.
Yeah.
All right, our next question is for AJ. They're wondering, is all of the water that you drill drinkable? Are any wells contaminated?
Thank you. That's a good question. All the well that we drill, the water have been drinking. They are safe. When we drill the well, we also take the samples and test them to make sure that they are good for human consumption. And that's what we really, really consider to make sure the people are not getting sick when we drill the well. And so they are safe, and the people are drinking them. Thank you.
All right, last one from Zion Lutheran School is for Linda Sue. They want to know, are Salva and Nia friends?
Ah, okay. So for those people who haven't read the book yet, it is written as a dual narrative. There's one chapter that's about a young girl named Nia who lives in South Sudan today, alternating with chapters about Salva's life. Okay, so Salva is right here, real person, right? Okay. Nia is what is called a composite character. I've already mentioned about how my husband went to South Sudan 2 different times and interviewed all kinds of people and met lots of villagers, and usually Salva was the interpreter. And when I looked at his notes and all the interviews he had done, I took a detail from one girl and a detail from another and a detail from another, and I put them together to create the character of Nia. So Nia is not a real person like Salva is. Her story is still true because it's very representative of what the girls and women in South Sudan go through, but she is not a real person the way Salva is. I imagine, though, that Salva is friends with many young girls like Nia. Right?
Absolutely. I know so many kids that wherever we go to the village, a lot of kids come to us. And what Nya mean in Dinka language, it means girl.
Mm.
And that's the meaning of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, our next questions are from Barker Middle School in Michigan City, Indiana. And these are all going to be for both Salva and AJ. They want to know, how has life in southern Sudan improved since the Civil War?
Okay. Seeing the Civil War, South Sudan has 2 civil wars. We have a war that we fought with North that was ended, and we get a country. And then ourselves alone get in their own conflict because of power struggling. And power struggling sometime for 2 people to fight, the innocent people would be fighting. I imagine we have Afghanistan kids here, Syrian, Lebanese, wherever, and all this kind of thing. It's because of the top there problems. Make innocent become victim. And when that civil war of 2013 came in, things really get bad. But the good thing, all of them, they need water, correct? As long as you are living thing, human being, you must get water. We didn't have any problem providing water to any group. And now things settle down. And situation is calmed down, and the impact is still thriving as much as we could. And it make our much easier now to be able to reach other people that we couldn't reach before. AJ can add the other part of it.
Thank you, Salva. In South Sudan, it's not like other countries, as Salva put it. We were thinking that the country, when we get out from the civil war, that the country will never go back to war again. But when it happened in 2013, it made a lot of changes. The people of South Sudan were worried until the peace was being signed, and now the citizens of the country of South Sudan are really back to themselves toward development in the country. And so there's a lot of the impact right now currently in the country, and to where we have a great accessibility of delivering the clean drinking water to the people that are in need. And so the work we do is impacting, and the country is stable, and there's no worry about the insecurity in the country right now. Thank you.
One thing that my husband noticed, he went in 2007 and again in 2015. And one of the fascinating things that he saw in 2015 was that some Sudanese, not all, but some Sudanese had cell phones. Like, whoa, cell phones here. Well, they're in some ways skipping low tech. If you want a landline, you have to string miles and miles and miles of wire or cable, right? If you have a cell phone, you just put up a tower and send out a signal, right? So forget this cable stuff and wires. We're just going to go right to cell phones, right? The only problem is you have to charge your cell phone, right? So you still need the electricity to charge your cell phone, and that is accomplished mostly by generators. So my husband has a photograph of a market stall, right? And this market stall's business is charging your cell phone. They have a generator. You bring your cell phone, you plug it in there, and you charge it up, and then you walk several hours back to your home village, and you do not play Candy Crush. You know, you got to make that phone that charge last as long as you can, because you got to walk hours back to the generator to get it charged up again. So they're using things like solar power, right? Because they got a lot of sun there. That's one thing they do have, right? So it's very interesting how modern technology is affecting some of, I mean, that won't build you a road, but you can communicate better if you have a cell phone, and somebody else has a cell phone, and you can get them charged. So it was fascinating to see those sorts of things.
All right, the next question is, do girls in South Sudan get to go to school in 2022, which I think Salva answered a little bit with his daughter.
Yes, they do. Before long ago in our time, the girls were rare to go to school. But now with this stability we have, well, that we put in, and then community thriving now, and your daughter is not going to walk again that long distance collecting the water all the time. What would you do to your daughter? Your daughter will go to school. And we have a lot of girls now in the school, which is good, and they stop. Because you cannot build the entire world within a day. Everything just step by step. Like in 2007 when they were there was zero telephone unless satellite. Right. And in 2000 when they went back, and you see that. Which means the help that all these people do to support water for South Sudan is not going in vain. You are really making impact, and you are investing in something that it could benefit all of us. Imagine all these problems we have all over the world, like wherever it happened today, even in Ukraine today, it affects all of us, correct? It's all our problem together. How can we address together? If we don't take good care of it, would it spoil the whole thing? You know, when the poison like COVID-19 started somewhere and become our own problem, it poisoned the whole world. And we need to pay attention to it. Thank you.
Just want to add a little bit on that, if you don't mind. As Salva put it, it's one of our messages that we're carrying out when we are going to the villages. We encourage the community to make sure that the girls are going to their school. And we take it very serious, because when we drill the well, we try to have mobilizations within the community to making sure that the girls need to go to school. In South Sudan previously, as Salva put it, was a lot of challenge for the girls to go to school, because they keep them collecting the water. And collecting that water, it takes the girl to walk in about 4 to 5 hours to come back. And that's also is danger in case of any animals, wild animals there. You might not know what is going to happen to the girls that are going to collect the water. And so when Water for South Sudan make it possible to provide the clean drinking water, it's number one priority for us to making sure the girls are going to the school. And we keep doing that, and we want to make sure that the family are adopted that so that the girls need to go to school. Thank you.
After basic needs, so water, obviously, The United Nations and other organizations have done many, many studies. And the number one way to raise the standard of living in a poverty-stricken community is to educate the girls and women. You educate the girls and women because they are responsible for educating the children. Okay? If you start educating the girls and women, the standard of living in a community rises over generations, dollar for dollar, as a better investment than anything else you can do. So you have to have the basic needs, and after that, you educate the girls.
That actually ties right into their next question for you. They were wondering if there's a way out of poverty for those in South Sudan.
A way out of poverty. Baby steps, I was saying.
Sure. The way out of the poverty in South Sudan. This is part of it, all the things that we are doing here to make sure you have a basic clean water first. And most of the villages now, they start with the school, whether it's under the tree or they build something shack to has a classroom. These things are happening there. And that's the step. Sooner, those girls who are going to school, they could be bright enough and do another thing. Like example, we have, like where we work now, we have girls coming in to help us working. And you all know that. Let's take America here. We have smart ladies that who are scientists, who are teachers, who are doing lawyers, doctors, and everything. Correct, guys? Why we deprive them not to be part of this community to contribute to our society? Because they are good, and they are good administrators too. They know how to run things really well. And it's a sooner, later on, when those girls and those guys who are going to school, when they come up, they will help us with this poverty, that how to get out of it. We will have people that can do agriculture in that school, who are educated, who can do other things, can be doctor, can be all those kind of things, can be smart business people, and life change. And this is the beginning of poverty change in South Sudan. Thank you.
Here's a really concrete example with which Angelique Stevens, who is a professor here at MCC, what she discovered on one of her trips. A woman was very skilled at weaving baskets, okay, and she would sell these baskets in the marketplace. But she had to fetch water for her family every day, so she would walk 4 and 5 hours fetching water. And Angelique asked her, how long does it take you to make a basket? She said, about a month. I do it in the evening, but there's no light. It's hard for me to see. I don't have any light here, right? So she makes 1 basket a month to sell in the marketplace. Ajay and Salva come in, they build a well. She no longer has to walk for water. How long does it take you to make a basket? 2 days. 2 days. Now she can make 10, 12 baskets a month. Okay? That's the start of getting out of poverty, right?
And her family become healthy. She provide food and the school fee, all those kind of things. Beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing. I was going to tell that story too, but people can have gardens in their home if they have water. They can grow food from their family and maybe a little extra, and they can sell that. So it's baby steps, but all of it comes from water.
And she just came there a few months ago.
Yeah, she was just there.
Yeah.
All right, and our last question from Barker Middle School is, are the Dinka and Nuer tribes still fighting today?
Dinka and Nuer tribe are not fighting again today. They just had peace, which is a good thing. Thank you, guys. Thank you. What fight bring to us? What do we gain from fight, guys? Anyone say that I gained this from fighting? Nothing, correct? That's always good, especially for you guys who came from other country because of the war. You could be a role model one day. You learn good thing here and you see it, fight doesn't give you anything, and then you get education and go back. Here in America, there are so many ways that you can get lost. And there are so many ways that you can be successful and be someone and make different in your life and make different in the life of other people. And it's your choice. It depends on you. And don't be carrying away. Number one is your school. No matter what, how English is hard, do the best. No matter what, how early morning you need to get up, do the best. And don't waste your opportunity because you don't have to worry about the war now. You don't have to worry about the hunger. And you don't have to worry about electricity or good feeding, all those kind of things. You should utilize that time and do the best you could and go back to your country with the education that you get and be a model and help these people not to fight again. Because fighting never gets us anything. We're all smart. God give us the brain. We can sit and reason things out. What is good for you, what is good for me, and then we agreed and then make it positive instead of fighting each other. And all the things that take us to fight, if you look at it critically, are all nonsense. What caused the war, a lot of them are nonsense. It's just because of greed. I need to have a power, I need to have this, and I need to have this, and why I don't like you, and all this. That's what all cause of war. But we should get out in that and do the best we could in our life. And you guys are going to be a role model for those countries that are in the war today. And thank you. Dinkas and Nuer are in peace now again.
Just want to let you guys know. Thank you. Just want to let you guys know Water for South Sudan right now have Nuer staff, another tribe in Water for South Sudan. And that's the change that we want to see in the country. And Water for South Sudan want to make sure all the tribes in South Sudan have a room to walk in Water for South Sudan. And that's the vision itself. We want to make sure we are one people. Doesn't matter what tribes we're coming from. And that, we preach that so much when we're drilling the well. We drill the wells. The well doesn't recognize whether you're Dinka or wherever you're coming from. You need the water to take the water. And that is very important for all of us to making sure that we encourage all the tribe to making sure that fighting will not give us anything. Let's make sure that we are one people and let love one another. And thank you.
All right, so we've got one last question for you guys. This is for Salva specifically. How did you feel about having a book written about your life? This is from Delta View Elementary in Pittsburgh, California.
Do you want to answer it for me?
Well, okay, I think they want to hear from you, but Salva was, you get some sense of it here, but he was incredibly modest about it. Right, so I finished, here's the story. I finished the manuscript. I needed him to read it, just to make sure and check everything. We'd been checking all along the way, but okay. So I'm like, Salva, could you read the book? You know, because it's not very long, right? Just, you know. All right, so somebody says to you, I've written a book about you. Do you want to read it? Wouldn't you be like, give me that thing? And you'd be like, what have they said about me? What have they said about me, right? Salva's like, yeah, I'm sure you did fine, whatever, you know. He didn't even want to read it. So I made him come to my house and I sat down and we read it on my computer together, right? And I asked him, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Because that's what he was just very, very modest about it. And I think that it's truly the case that he didn't care about a book about his story. But if the book would help the people of South Sudan, then he was like, okay, let's do it. So it wasn't like, let's have a book about me. It was, let's have a book that will let people know what's going on in my country with my people.
Sure, I would just add a little bit. Thank you,
Yeah.
Linda. In this world, it doesn't matter what you have or what happened in your life. You're still a human being, correct? All these heroes, those who did what, and all these famous people, they're still with us here, correct? And they're still our people. What matters is what could you do good to your people. That's all matter. And it doesn't matter what, we're still human beings doing the best for ourselves. And that's all. And whatever happened in your life, don't put yourself like you are something, nothing about it. Nothing is unique about you completely. Yes, you're still simple person and all this no matter what. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're so excited that everybody could come join us today here in person and in wonderful live stream land. We'd like you to share what you've learned here today with someone that you care about. Tell them about Water for South Sudan. If you're a teacher, you can register to participate in the annual Iron Giraffe Challenge to win a visit from Salva. And finally, we'd like to thank everybody, all of our presenters up here today. Thank you so much for coming to talk with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.